everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge, and welcome to a video I've been wanting to make for a little while now, but I was trying to make sure I had all the best recommendations for it, and that is a fantasy romance recommendation list. So I tried to really scratch my brain because I didn't want to put the same recs on here as everyone else was putting on, or recs that you have heard a million times before. I wanted to try to be a little bit original, but I will be honest that this list is inspired basically by one particular romance that I have been wanting to talk about nonstop lately. And then a few of these you'll probably guess will be on here if you've followed me, but I tried to pick books that aren't generally touted by other booktubers as fantasy romance, so hopefully some of these will be new to you. If you want to purchase any of these books, either the ebook or the physical copy of them, I do have an Amazon storefront where I list all the books that I talk about in my videos. So if you want to purchase any of these and, you know, give me a little bit of commission as you do it, you can check out my Amazon storefront link down below. But otherwise, here's just some recs for you. So let's start off with the one that is inspiring this video. I have talked about this book so many times in the last couple weeks. I apologize, but also I don't, because it's amazing. And that is A Heart of Blood and Ashes, the first in a Gathering of Dragons series by Milivane. This book is a barbarian romantic fantasy. Think Game of Thrones, think Khal Drogo when you think of Merrick. Only not as stupid and not as brutal. Although he's pretty brutal, he's pretty amazing as well. We are dealing with this hate to love situation, which, to be honest, that's what most fantasy romance seems to be, is hate to love, isn't it? Just wait, because I think all of these except for two are going to be a hate to love situation. So I hope you like that. This is in a world that is run by these barbarian tribes, and they have different kingdoms spread throughout it, and Merrick is the son of a king and queen of one part of it, and when he comes home from battle, he discovers that both his mother and father have been murdered by an opposing kingdom, and his father was accused of being a rapist and a murderer, and then that other kingdom killed him and killed the mother when she tried to defend her husband. So he comes back to this. He thinks that it's horse shit because he's like, my father would have never done that. He has no reason to rape and murder somebody over there. And he wants to get revenge against this kingdom. The council that kind of overlooks all of these barbarian tribes says, you don't have a case for getting revenge because your father committed a crime. And so if you attack these people, you're going to be going to war against the entire council, basically. So Merrick's pretty angry about that. He decides he's going to go after them anyway. On his way to attack this country for killing his parents, he gets stopped by a servant who says, hey, this king that you're going to go attack, he actually has a secret daughter that he hasn't told anyone about, and if you were to kill her, you'd be getting revenge against this king, and you wouldn't have to start a war that would affect everybody else for generations just to help you get your revenge. So he ends up meeting Yvain, who is a princess who she is been abused and locked in a tower by her father her whole life, and he is sending her off to be married to a different king so that he can have more power over more lands. But Yvain, though she is weak of body, is very sharp of mind, and she actually set this entire thing up so that her and Maddock, I keep calling her Merrick, his name is Maddock, could get face to face and have a political alliance behind her father's back to try to rescue their lands. I know I just said a lot. That is just the setup of this story. There's so much more going on. Maddock does not trust this woman, but he agrees that he does need her, so they enter into this uneasy alliance where they're planning to be wed to one another and try to get revenge against her father. And it is so good. There are mystical magical creatures, there are dragons, there is barbarians riding horses, there are zombie-like creatures. This book has everything. It is so close to a Game of Thrones, but yet, in my opinion, better because the romance in it just warms my heart. And that's what makes romantic fantasy amazing. Anyway, so you definitely should check this out. The sequel comes out in July, and the third book will be out this December. So you're starting a series that you can continue. Next, I want to trip back to YA and talk about The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. I really think Trisha Levenseller does do romance in her fantasies pretty well. I also like her Daughter of the Pirate King duology. This is about a girl, I need to remember her name, Alessandra, who she wants to become queen. And so she wants to go entice the King of Shadows into marrying her and then murder him so she can be the queen. Won't just be enough for her to marry the king. She wants to kill him so that she has all the power. There's no real reason for this. He's not a bad king. He hasn't done anything to hurt anybody. He's not an evil dictator. She just wants to be queen. And who can fault her for that, right? This book, I originally got to read an arc of it, and I just adored it so much. I thought Alessandra, she's really hard to get behind because you meet this king and there's nothing wrong with him, except he's standing in her way. So it's beautiful because he sees something in her that he likes. And so the two of them actually enter into a fake dating situation because he's supposed to get married, but he doesn't want to. And he wants to keep an eye on his advisors, and he believes that she will be able to help him with that. So she agrees to basically like be fake engaged to him so that he can get his advisors off his back, but also she's trying to protect him from being murdered long enough for her to marry him and murder him herself. So this girl, this has been described as like a Slytherin romance, and it definitely is. They are both Slytherins in different ways, and this romance it's fantastic. Like, I loved this book. It's pretty short, but it packed a punch. So you should definitely check this out because there's a reason too why it's called The Shadows Between Us. That's the magical part that I don't want to ruin for you because it's cool. Next, I have Red Ryder by Kate Avery Ellison. This is the first book in the Sworn saga. This entire series is on KU. I believe the first, well, not the entire, it's not finished yet, but there is 3 books out in the series so far. This is a little more dystopian, but it also is fantastical because it involves werewolves, basically. And it's kind of set in this world where like werewolves have come out of hiding and they're actually running everything. And it's actually kind of a dystopian world because there are only certain women who are able to breed with the sworn to make more sworn. And so you're tested when you are 15. All the women are tested, and if you are one of the women who can breed, you're given a mark, and when you're 18, you're supposed to turn yourself in and go to the capital and be given to a member of the sworn to become his wife. So this one is about Red. Her name is Meredith, who she has been successfully hiding. She's 19 now. She's been successfully hiding from being turned in, and her luck is about to run out. And she actually will meet up with Vixer Ray, who is a very high-ranking sworn, and he is sent to bring her to the capital. And this series is, each new entry has just been so good. I really think that Kate Avery Ellison does an amazing job. I think there's supposed to be 6 books in this series. You can tell they're all pretty small. They're all around 200 pages long, and I just adore the series. So you should definitely check this one out. If you like kind of that, it's a little bit, it's named after like Handmaid's Tale. You'd get that vibe a lot, but there's also some cool fantasy. Then I have The Shrike in the Shadows by Chantal Gadouri and A.M. Wright. So this is the first book in the Witch of the Crum, however they're gonna say it. And this is a Hansel and Gretel retelling. They go by like Hans and Greta, but you know, Hansel and Gretel. And they are living in this town. They are outcasts in this town where there is this witch called the Shrike, who she will take a man, take him as her lover for the night, and then the next morning, the townspeople will find him like without a heart. So she'll like make love to him, rip out his heart, and send him back. And so this town lives in a lot of fear. and they live in a fear of witches. And now Greta has always seemed a little bit odd, and the townspeople think that she might be the Shrike. And so we have her brother Hans, who's actually very popular. He's very handsome. A lot of the women in town want him for themselves, and they can't understand. And Hans, here's what it is. Hans is an idiot. We love him, but he's an idiot. And he actually is a player. And so all these women that he's sleeping with, he says the reason he can't be with them is he needs to stay and protect his sister. So he has actually laid the groundwork for his sister to be in a lot of trouble by saying the reason why he can't be with these women is because he needs to stay with his sister. And so then a lot of the women in town that her brother is sleeping with think that she's a witch and is like in love with her brother, which is not the case, but they suspect that she has a spell over her brother because he keeps saying, oh no, I can't marry you, I gotta take care of my sister. But there is a serious war going on where this Shrike is coming and attacking the men, and that's actually how they lost their father, was due to the Shrike. And there's just a lot of drama in this town. But it's very good. So definitely check this out. The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. So the reason I'm putting this in fantasy romance is that, well, this is a beautiful fantasy world. This is about a girl who, this first book actually takes place kind of over her whole life. This takes place in kind of a Russian folklore type of place where these people respect the household gods, is what they're called. So they're the gods that would like keep you safe from illness, who will keep you from starving, and you would leave special sacrifices for them, like you would leave a dish of milk out at night for them, or you sweep your crumbs to a certain corner of the room as like a treat for them. So there are these just little superstitions and traditions that these people do to support their household gods. Well, there happens to be organized religion starts coming through the land, including monks and priests who are trying to banish the heathen ways. So instead of a place where these two traditions used to live in harmony, and just because they did these little traditions and honored the household gods, they still did believe in one God, these people are trying to flush those things out. And it's causing a lot of disturbances in the magical world. So we have this being, the Winter King, who we hear lots of mystical, magical things about him. And he needs the help of this child who he kind of makes sure that she's born, and he blesses her when she's born. And when she reaches a certain age, he needs her to help him defeat the evil one. And she has this girl, she has a nursemaid who keeps deferring the Winter King, like keeps saying, please don't come for her yet, you need to wait until she's older. And it actually starts to put the land in kind of a dangerous position because we keep waiting for this to happen. But then we also see the life of this girl. We see her grow up. She has the sight, she's able to see these household gods and creatures and tries to take care of them and respect them, and it's amazing. The romance part definitely comes into play more into the second and third book of this series, but I think the first one is really beautiful setup of watching her grow up, and just the atmosphere of this series is so beautiful. The conclusion to this series took my breath away, and I definitely think if you are more into a fantasy romance that is kind of like a slow building beautiful atmosphere, that you would really enjoy it. So definitely check out the Winter Night trilogy. And I gotta talk about Fortunas Horn and Restless Slumber by K.J. Sutton. This is going to be an epic fantasy series that is supposed to have 6 books total, and I am so excited about it. This first one is about a girl named Fortunas Horn who is the last of her kind. She has this ability, she's called a nightmare. We live in a world where all of the fae exist, every kind of them exists. The night courts, the Seelie and Unseelie court, the werewolves, the vampires, anything you can think of, it exists. And she is this creature called a nightmare where she can discover what your nightmare is and project it back to you in this like horrible way and literally like drive you insane from it. And her brother has been missing for 2 years, and so she has nobody else who is her same species, nobody else that she can turn to. And this man appears, whose name is Corvin. I think you say Corvin, or is it Corwin? See how I pronounce his name. Collith. I was totally wrong. His name is Collith, and he says that in exchange for her marrying him, he will help her find her brother. And he's from the Unseelie court. And it turns out, surprise, he's actually the king of the Unseelie court. And he knows where her brother is, but he needs her. And he doesn't tell her why. He just says, I'll help you find your brother if you marry me. And he has some nefarious and some not nefarious reasons for wanting her to marry him. And then we have a second book, which, look at the covers on these babies. Like, you gotta do this. Her artwork is insanity. And then the second one, it escalates. I don't know what else to say. And the cliffhanger we had on the second book, holy crap. So I really suggest this series. Booktube, thankfully, a few more people have read this book and have both loved it. I have more in-depth reviews for these on my Goodreads if you want to check it out. But honestly, I believe Fortunas Horn is on KU, but the second one you have to buy. So she has the first one on KU, and you have to buy that. I had to buy copies of these because I have to own this series. The artwork alone makes it worth it, but the story inside is also amazing, and I love this badass bitch, and I want her. The last series I want to talk about, it's so funny because I already made this list to talk about, and then I just got approved for the arc of the third book. I'm so happy because I can't wait to keep reading it. But that is the Black Witch Chronicles. I believe that's what it's going with. Yes, the Black Witch Chronicles. The first one is the Black Witch. The next one is the Iron Flower. The Shadow Wand, which was just in my anticipated releases video, comes out this month in June. And this is about a girl named Ellerin, who she is the last descendant of, or the granddaughter of the Black Witch, who was not such a great figure. This is another fantasy world that includes like all the things. It has just all different kinds of magical creatures, and witches and warlocks are kind of like at the top of that in a very oppressive way. Like, they have oppressed all other kinds of magical creatures because they call them not human, and the witches and warlocks are supposedly part human, which makes them better. Snobs. Why would you say that? So she gets sent to this magical school where everyone's supposed to go, and she is also trying, like, her aunt is trying to coerce her into marriage. And so she's the one who's paying for her to go to this school. And when Ellerin refuses the marriage that her aunt wants her to have, she takes away her money. She blocks her off from her inheritance because she's not old enough to have it herself. And so she has to kind of like go to work. She has to get like a work studies program, basically, right? To pay her way through school. And in this happening, she gets introduced to the other species of people who are working there, and they do not have nice things to say to her. And she actually gets bullied very horribly by these other species of people because they see her as kind of a representative of everything they hate. Some of them know that she's the Black Witch's granddaughter, and they want to kill her for the atrocities that her grandmother did against their people. And so a lot of people fall out of this series with the first book because Ellerin's not very likable. She goes along with some of the bad things that are done because she lived her life in ignorance. She was raised as the granddaughter of the woman who did this. So she would think that what her grandmother did was good. She would think that the way things happen are how it's supposed to be. And the arc of her cannot be understated. The arc that we see her go through, which she's only beginning by the end of this book. Like, she is hard to handle through most of the first book, which is why a lot of people either DNF or they gave it really low scores or just didn't go anywhere with it. And I constantly whenever it's brought up, I will support this first book, because you need to see this character be unlikable, bitchy, whiny, entitled, and all these things happen to her, so that when the gut punch comes, when her eyes are open to what is happening to these people, once that happens, then her arc can start. Because now she's friends with these people. She understands how horribly they've been treated and what's happening. And then she wants to change it. And she is a person of privilege as can be in this world. And she is in a place where she can try to change it. And it's so satisfying to have seen her come in as this entitled girl. She had her problems. She has, what we would call, she has first world problems. And now she gets to see what the real issues are. And so, and also the romance that starts in this series, it's a forbidden romance. It's so angsty and just great. And I just really, really want you to give this series a try. It's a hefty series. Each book is over 500 pages, so I understand if Ellerin is hard to put up with. It was hard for me. But once I saw where this series was going and who this character is going to become, and the cast of characters that we get shown, it was worth it to me. So that's my pitch for the Black Witch Chronicles. So there you go. There are some fantasy romance recommendations from me. I hope that you will give these a try. Again, if you want to purchase any of these and you want to support me, you can do it through my link down below. No pressure to do that, of course. But thank you so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some of them right now. Bye!